Alien truths. Silence hung between them in the greenhouse specimen room, Lena's mind struggling to process what her eyes had witnessed. Eric's partially transformed appearance, the luminescent patterns still faintly visible beneath his skin, the impossible communication with her plants. "I should have told you sooner," Eric said, his voice carrying unfamiliar harmonics that seemed to resonate with the greenhouse plants around him, their leaves subtly turning toward him, as if listening. "I meant to explain once I understood whether I could trust you." "What are you?" Lena asked, her scientific curiosity overriding fear, despite the shock. "I am Lumerian," Eric replied, his appearance slowly shifting back toward human form, though his eyes retained an unusual iridescence. "Botanical specialist, 3rd Research Division, exploring Earth's plant diversity for comparative studies." "From another planet," Lena clarified, her mind racing through implications. "From a world orbiting what you call Barnard's star," Eric confirmed. "Approximately 6 light-years from your solar system. We've been studying Earth discreetly for several decades. Your planet's botanical diversity is unmatched in our explored section of the galaxy." Lena moved closer, scientific fascination replacing initial shock, the botanist in her needing to understand this impossible encounter. "How do you communicate with the plants?" "Biochemical resonance," Eric explained. "Lumerians evolved symbiotic relationships with our world's flora. Our cellular structure allows direct chemical communication, exchange of complex information through molecular signals." He hesitated, then extended his hand, palm upward. "Would you like me to show you?" Despite everything rational telling her to be cautious, Lena placed her hand in his, their fingers intertwining, the contact sending unexpected warmth through her arm as faint purple luminescence spread briefly where their skin touched. "Close your eyes," Eric instructed, his voice gentle. When Lena complied, she gasped as sensations flooded her consciousness. Not images exactly, but impressions, colors, textures, scents, information transferring directly through their connected hands. She could sense the plants around them, their slow awareness of light, moisture, nutrients, their responses to environmental changes, subtle communications between specimens through root systems and airborne chemical signals. Opening her eyes, she found Eric watching her with an expression of hope and vulnerability. "I wanted to share this with you since we met," he admitted. "Your theories about plant communication are remarkably aligned with Lumerian understanding, despite your limited technological means." Over the following days, their relationship transformed, Eric revealing more of his true nature and purpose, while Lena shared her research without reservation. They worked side by side, her scientific instruments complementing his innate abilities, their combined approach yielding discoveries about plant communication that validated her most controversial theories. In the evenings, Eric showed Lena holographic images of his homeworld, projected from a device concealed in his equipment. Luminescent forests where plants and people shared consciousness, vast gardens with botanical specimens gathered from dozens of worlds, architecture that incorporated living plants as structural and aesthetic elements. "My people believe all life forms are connected through what you might call universal consciousness," Eric explained one night as they sat beneath the stars, his human disguise relaxed in private, revealing subtle purple undertones to his skin. "The barrier between sentient beings and other life forms is less defined in our understanding." Lena found herself sharing more personal thoughts than she had with anyone since before the incident. the isolation that had defined her recent years dissolving in Eric's presence, his acceptance of her scientific theories extending to genuine interest in her as a person. "You've never asked why I work alone out here," she observed as they cataloged specimens in the greenhouse. "What happened to my academic career?" Eric's expression remained open, respectful. "You would tell me if you wished me to know. Lumerian culture values personal disclosure given freely, not extracted through questioning." His response touched something in Lena. The simple respect for boundaries, so different from human curiosity and judgment. She found herself wanting to tell him everything, but hesitated, uncertain how he would react to the truth of her past. Their work continued, a comfortable routine establishing itself as spring advanced. The greenhouse blooming with unprecedented vigor under their combined care, Eric's presence seeming to stimulate growth in even the most delicate specimens, while Lena's technical expertise provided framework for documenting their discoveries. One evening, as sunset painted the mountains in gold and crimson, they walked the perimeter of her research station discussing potential applications for their findings, the conversation flowing easily between scientific theory and personal philosophy. "The stars are different here," Eric said, looking upward as the first pinpoints of light appeared in the deepening blue. "My home system would be visible there," he pointed toward the eastern horizon, "in approximately 2 hours. "Do you miss it?" Lena asked, studying his profile as starlight caught the subtle purple undertones of his skin, visible now that his disguise had relaxed in her presence. "Parts of it," he admitted. "Connection with the botanical consciousness, the harmonics of Lumerian music, the seasonal migration of luminescent spores through our atmosphere." He turned toward her, his expression open. "But there are discoveries here I never anticipated." Something in his voice, in the way his eyes met hers, shifted the energy between them, the professional partnership that had been gradually evolving into friendship, now trembling on the edge of something more. Lena found herself stepping closer, drawn by a connection that transcended species differences, Eric's hand rising to gently touch her face, his fingers slightly cooler than human temperature, trailing along her cheek with wonder. "May I show you something else?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," she breathed. This time, when their lips met, starlight seemed to flow between them, Eric's natural luminescence briefly flaring, visible patterns of light cascading beneath his purple-tinged skin as emotion overwhelmed his control, the kiss deepening into something that communicated across barriers of language and biology. When they finally separated, both slightly breathless, Lena realized the plants around them had oriented toward their position, leaves and blossoms turning as if drawn by the energy between them. "They respond to emotional biochemistry too," Eric explained softly, his forehead resting against her. "Connection transcends form." That night marked a transformation in their relationship, the boundaries between research partners and something more intimate dissolving as naturally as day turning to night, Eric sharing more of his true self, while Lena found herself opening to possibilities she had never imagined. Human and Lumerian finding common ground in both science and emotion.
Crossed signals. The evening shadows lengthened across the greenhouse floor as Lena mechanically checked irrigation systems and growth measurements, her scientific discipline maintaining routine despite emotional turmoil. She had avoided Eric throughout the day, knowing he was preparing for departure, unable to face another goodbye, another rejection. His voice behind her startled her from concentration. "You misunderstand my reaction." Lena turned, finding him standing in the doorway, his natural form fully visible, purple skin, luminescent patterns flowing in complex sequences she had come to recognize as indicating distress. "I understand perfectly. You learned the truth about me and decided to leave." Eric moved closer, confusion evident in his expression. "Your confession about the laboratory incident increased my respect for you, not diminished it." "What?" Lena's anger faltered, replaced by confusion. "Truth-sharing is sacred among Lemurians," Eric explained. "The honesty you showed demonstrated profound trust. The acceptance of responsibility for past actions indicates evolved consciousness by our standards." "Then why have you been so distant?" Lena asked. "Why are you packing to leave, without even discussing it with me?" Eric's luminescent patterns intensified, his expression troubled. "I received urgent communication from my homeworld 3 days ago, after your confession. The timing was coincidental, not causal." He activated a small device, projecting holographic images of a planet with purple-tinged vegetation, widespread areas showing signs of decay and devastation. "Lumeria faces ecological crisis," he explained. "Plant systems failing across multiple regions. Our scientists unable to determine cause or solution." Lena studied the images, her scientific mind immediately analyzing visible patterns, despite her emotional confusion. "This looks like systematic failure of communication between plant networks, similar to what happens during certain types of fungal infections on Earth." "Exactly," Eric confirmed. "Something is blocking the natural biochemical exchanges between plant systems, causing cascading failure across entire ecosystems. My research division believes your work, our work together, may provide solution." "I don't understand," Lena said. "Your planet has far more advanced technology than Earth. How could my research help?" Eric's expression softened. "Your approach is unique. Your theories about alternative communication pathways between plant species when primary systems fail, the hybridization techniques we've developed together, they represent new direction my people haven't explored." The holographic image shifted, showing more detailed analysis of failing systems. Lena's scientific curiosity engaging despite her emotional confusion. She could see possibilities, applications of their research that might address the patterns of degradation. "I've been distant because I've been analyzing our findings against this new data," Eric continued, "preparing necessary materials for transport, struggling with impossible decision." "What decision?" Lena asked, though part of her already understood. "I must return immediately with our research," Eric said, his luminescent patterns revealing emotional turmoil. "Lumeria's botanical systems face collapse without intervention, but I find myself unable to contemplate leaving you behind." The implication hung between them as Lena processed his words. He hadn't been withdrawing because of her confession, but because he faced impossible choice between his world's needs and his feelings for her. "You want me to go with you?" she said, finally understanding dawning. "I have no right to ask," Eric replied, his voice containing those musical undertones that emerged with strong emotion. "The journey is dangerous, requiring light-fold technology never tested on humans. You would leave everything, your world, your research station, your planet." He moved closer, his purple fingers gently touching her face with familiar tenderness. "I feared asking, feared your rejection, feared you might agree and face unknown consequences. either possibility equally painful to contemplate. Lena's mind raced with the implications: scientific, professional, personal, leaving Earth, traveling to another star system, alien environment, unknown biology, adaptation challenges. The rational, analytical part of her cataloging risks and uncertainties, while another part considered what remained for her here: isolation, limited resources, continued suspicion from the scientific community. What would my role be? She asked, her scientist's mind needing details, even as her heart had already begun deciding. Full research partner, Eric said without hesitation. Equal authority within botanical division, access to all Lemurian scientific resources, opportunity to apply our combined approaches to critical ecological challenge. His luminescent patterns shifted subtly. I would not presume expectations regarding our personal connection, though my feelings remain unchanged. Lena studied him, seeing past the alien features to the being she had come to care for deeply. The connection they had formed transcending differences in biology and origin, considering the invitation not just as scientific opportunity, but as a new beginning, somewhere her past mistakes wouldn't define her entire identity. How much time do I have to decide? She asked. Preparations require approximately 36 Earth hours, Eric replied. Lightfold launch window opens then. Lena nodded, needing space to consider the most important decision of her life. I need to think. Later that night, she stood under the stars, contemplating the section of sky where Eric had pointed out his home system, invisible to naked human eyes, yet now central to her thoughts. The research station that had been both sanctuary and prison suddenly seeming temporary against the scale of what she was considering. What remained for her on Earth, after years of isolation, professional rejection, and limited resources for her work? What might be possible on a world where plant communication was fundamental to society, where her theories weren't controversial but aligned with existing understanding, where she might contribute to solving genuine crisis? And there was Eric, their connection, unexpected and profound, communication that transcended species differences, the acceptance she had found in his company, both professionally and personally, something she had stopped believing possible after the incident. What would my role be? She asked, her scientist's mind needing details, even as her heart had already begun deciding. Full research partner, Eric said without hesitation. Equal authority within botanical division, access to all Lemurian scientific resources, opportunity to apply our combined approaches to critical ecological challenge. His luminescent patterns shifted subtly. I would not presume expectations regarding our personal connection, though my feelings remain unchanged. Lena studied him, seeing past the alien features to the being she had come to care for deeply. The connection they had formed transcending differences in biology and origin, considering the invitation not just as scientific opportunity, but as a new beginning, somewhere her past mistakes wouldn't define her entire identity. How much time do I have to decide? She asked. Preparations require approximately 36 Earth hours, Eric replied. Lightfold launch window opens then. Lena nodded, needing space to consider the most important decision of her life. I need to think. Later that night, she stood under the stars, contemplating the section of sky where Eric had pointed out his home system, invisible to naked human eyes, yet now central to her thoughts. The research station that had been both sanctuary and prison suddenly seeming temporary against the scale of what she was considering. What remained for her on Earth, after years of isolation, professional rejection, and limited resources for her work? What might be possible on a world where plant communication was fundamental to society, where her theories weren't controversial but aligned with existing understanding, where she might contribute to solving genuine crisis? And there was Eric, their connection, unexpected and profound, communication that transcended species differences, the acceptance she had found in his company, both professionally and personally, something she had stopped believing possible after the incident. "What would my role be?" she asked, her scientist's mind needing details, even as her heart had already begun deciding. "Full research partner," Eric said, without hesitation. "Equal authority within Botanical Division, access to all Lemurian scientific resources, opportunity to apply our combined approaches to critical ecological challenge." His luminescent patterns shifted subtly. "I would not presume expectations regarding our personal connection, though my feelings remain unchanged." Lena studied him, seeing past the alien features to the being she had come to care for deeply. The connection they had formed transcending differences in biology and origin. Considering the